Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. This is my commandment: love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I no longer call you slaves, because the slave does not know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I have told you everything I have heard from my Father. It was not you who chose me, but I chose you, and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will remain. So whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. This I command you: love one another." The Gospel of the Lord. One day I was on the internet looking at the news. On AOL, you've got maybe 30 different stories, and I was punching one through, and I came upon one that was very interesting. It was a surprise visit of a soldier returning home to his child or children. And there were 10 different stories of kids unaware that daddy was coming home from school, from Afghanistan. There was one girl sitting in school, sitting in her desk at school, and all of a sudden her dad came in, and boy, did she get up, and she ran right up to him, gave him a big, big hug, and she was so excited. There was another one, a little boy that was at the airport, and he didn't know why he was there. From a distance, he recognized his father, and he ran over and gave a big hug and kiss to his father, and the father did the same. I saw a young girl reading at home. I like to do after school. She wasn't watching television, she was studying. And she looked up, and all of a sudden, her daddy appeared. And she jumped up with great joy. There was a mother with 3 of her daughters home, just doing housework. And they're all their backs were to the front door. And the door opened slowly, and the father touched the shoulder of his wife, and she turned around and started screaming that it was her husband coming back from Afghanistan. So the joy of realizing somebody you love and realizing that someone loves you brings a tremendous amount of joy to us. And this unexpected joy that they received at the unexpected visitor. Today Jesus looks and says, "As the Father loves me, so I love you. Remain in my love." Remain means to abide or stay in place. So from all eternity, God has said, just as the Father has loved me, I love you. The same eternal, unconditional, everlasting, unselfish love. And that's an unexpected thing. A lot like Mary when she was in the upper room and Jesus had died, and they were all in deep sorrow and depression. All of a sudden, Jesus appears unexpectedly to the 12 and his mother. And imagine the joy that they received at the sign of the resurrected Christ, who is love. Now, the only true definition of love is God. God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God. And from all eternity, I think God chose a mother to be a special instrument of his love. In the first reading, we hear that Jesus, the writer says, God shows no partiality. There's nobody here that he loves more, or nobody he loves less. Nobody in Africa, in Asia, or Japan, or at work, at school, wherever you are, God shows no partiality. But I kind of disagree with that. I think God shows tremendous partiality towards the mother. From all eternity, before the mother was ever born, God loved her and chose her. You did not choose me. I chose you to be a mother. I chose you to be a mother. And from all eternity, he chose her to have the tremendous privilege of bringing love into the world. because every child is a sign of God's love in the world. And you say, well, Father, you say God shows no partiality, but he has a special love for a mother. That's true. Because from all eternity, he had her in mind to be my mother. I compare it to seeing someone at the mall. A mother was walking, she was with child. I hate the word pregnant. It's a very masculine word. With child. She was with child, and she was going like this. And knowing that the baby was there, and she was saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. The child did not know the mother was expressing her love for him or her. And that's the same way. We're not aware that God's remaining in us and expressing his love to us. Just like a child is not aware of a mother's love, so we are not aware of God's love for us. We who are all in the womb of a mother. Yes, when we look at today's reading, just as the Father loves me, so I love you, remain in my love. How? By keeping my commandments. And what's the one commandment? Love one another. I command you to love one another so my love may be alive in you. And a sign of God's love being alive with you is the joy that you have. Just like the children were filled with joy at the love of their father, we're filled with joy at the love of a mother. So we're filled with joy at the awareness of God's love for us. And a sign of our loving our neighbor, and so loving God. I can tell God I love him all the time, but if I don't love you, it's a waste of time telling God, Jesus, I love you, I love you, I love you. But if I don't love each one of you, God does not remain in me. That's what sin does. Sin, rather, really imprisons us so God's love cannot remain in us. Addiction controls us so that God's love cannot remain in us. But God calls us to become aware of his love for us. And he chose a mother to be that unique expression of his love. A couple of days ago, I went to a very swanky restaurant. I go to swanky restaurant. Rio's classy one. Capital Lunch. I go there all the time. I have my 2 hot dogs. So I sit there. I don't know what I was doing in New Britain. I went there for a sick call, that's right. A lady was very, very sick. And she lived off of Corbin Avenue, and I went to see her on Eldridge or Ellsbury Road or something like that. So I sit and have my hot dog, my 2 hot dogs. I'm really enjoying them. That's one hot dog I never eat fast. I chew on them and just enjoy that sauce. In front of me was a mother with a daughter. But I noticed the mother wasn't eating anything. The daughter was eating some French fries and a hamburger. She finished half of the hamburger. She went up to the waiter and said, please wrap this up, because that's what she's going to have for supper. And the mother was crying. So in my shyness, I said, what's the matter? I never saw her before. I never see her again, I'm sure. And she was crying because she said, Father, I can't love her as she deserves to be loved. I can't give her what I want to give her. I says, well, you're giving her the most important thing, your love. Everything, nothing else matters as much as the love you have for her. So we ask ourselves, do we really deserve God's love? If there's anything that we can do that we say we can deserve God's love, there's nothing you and I can do. Jesus, just as the Father loves me, so I love you. And if you want to prove your love for me, love your neighbor. And the only thing that prevents us from loving our neighbor is sin. Because sin imprisons us, addiction, whether drugs, drinking, whatever it may be, gambling, shopping, whatever, that imprisons us. And for Jesus to remain in you, you have to be free. Free of sin, so the love can be expressed through you. Now when we're talking about love, what do we think? We're talking about 3 different types of love. First, we have the love of eros. Secondly, the love of filial love. And third, agape. Now, when we talk about eros, we're talking about a form of possession of a person. Not for their sake, not be possessive, but that possesses a certain relationship with that person. And it's a real human relationship based on God's love. And then we have the other type of love, filial love, love of friendship. You know, you can learn a lot from teenagers. They want their friends. For a long time they're hanging around with grandmother, and all of a sudden they're not hanging around with grandma. They're just hanging around with their friends. Those are the most important people in their life. Yes, that's filial love, the love of friendship. We have eros, the human possession of love. And then we have filial love. Then we have agape. Agape means the love of God for each one of us. Because God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God, and God in that person. Yes, if you really want to know the definition of love, don't turn on television. Don't look at the magazines that you see in the rack when you're up and Stop and Shop. That's not where you're going to find love. You're not going to find love in feeling. You're going to find love in your will. And that's where God resides, in your will. He says, just as the Father loves me, so I love you. Remain in me so that I can remain in you and express my love through you. Yes, you look at your life, and you look at your mother, and you know that that was a unique expression of God's love. Your mother is, or was, a special gift to you. She didn't realize from all eternity she was going to be your mother. But God had a plan for your mother, to be a mother of you. Yes, the greatest gift I think God could give us is the gift of a mother. Because in that mother, we find agape, a God's love. And God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God and that person. And that person is your mother. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.